Support Your Local Parents is the 12th episode of the 7th season of Full House. This is directed by James O'Keefe, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And there are two parts of the narrative, so I'll talk about each of those in turn. And we start off, of course, with usually a separate introduction. Sometimes the introduction carries into the main narrative. That's not the case here. It starts off with DJ and Steve kissing, and Michelle comes along and happens to mention that she learned about the millions of germs in your spit. And DJ and Steve are initially not bothered. They go to kiss again and they realise it's disgusting. It's a pretty good way to get people to focus on their homework. As I said, there are two parts of the narrative, so I'll talk about each of them. I'll talk about DJ first, and then Nicky and Alex. And Stephanie and Michelle are always borrowing DJ stuff. And DJ tells them to stop it, of course. And then DJ gets a ticket. She wasn't speeding, but Kimmy had her feet hanging out of the window, drying them off, and DJ's view was obstructed, so she got a ticket, which is fair enough. That's a pretty dangerous thing to do. And obviously she doesn't want to tell Danny, because Danny might stop her from driving the car. I think it's more likely that Danny would just stop Kimmy from being in the car. And Stephanie and Michelle overhear this, and they bribe her. They bribe DJ. They make her let her borrow her stuff, or let them borrow her stuff, in exchange for not telling Danny, and they take advantage. I think they could have done a little bit more with this as the narrative. I think, obviously, we don't really have that much time because most of the focus is on Nicky and Alex, but I think maybe this could have been the main narrative of a different episode, and they could have really shown them taking advantage and really digging into the problems of blackmail, because they didn't really do much with that. So they could have done a bit more, but what we got was good. Danny ultimately does find out. DJ comes clean because she realises it's not worth it with Stephanie and Michelle just taking all of her things. And Danny doesn't lose it, to his credit, but he does tell DJ, I love this, her punishment is to drive Stephanie and Michelle around anywhere they want for 2 weeks, which seems harsh. But then, because Stephanie and Michelle blackmailed DJ, they're grounded for 2 weeks. So they can't go anywhere anyway. So I thought it was pretty good fun and a nice way to wrap up the narrative. We then come to the main narrative, and I think that if you can relate to Becky and Jesse in this episode, there might be a lot of value in this. And this is because Nicky and Alex are not socialising with other children. They have each other. They, I guess, don't feel the need to socialise with other children. And I'm guessing that this is quite a common thing with twins, because obviously if they are fulfilling their social needs with each other, why would you look for somebody else? And I think that makes a lot of sense. But they realise that this could be quite a problem. So they bring over a bunch of kids and they're singing the wheels on the bus, and Joey's helping out as well. And it's not working. Nicky and Alex don't care. And this might be the most, I could be wrong, but this could be the most acting Nicky and Alex have ever done, or the actors have ever done. They have a lot of moving around. They have a lot to say. They're really starting to become little characters in their own right, with their own, well, as we see, personalities and attitudes, and it's nice to see. And then Jesse tries to bribe them with gummy bears. It doesn't work. Jesse and Becky end up going to a support group for parents of twins. I don't know if that's something that exists, but it seems like it could do. It seems quite beneficial. And there's somebody there who now has older twins who are basically still behaving the way Nicky and Alex are. And as he explained, the more we pushed them, the more they clung to each other. Which, again, I don't know if that's exactly how it would work out, but it seems pretty realistic to me. And Jesse realises that he has to admit that there is a problem. And if they don't do something about it now and get the help now, he could be like this guy who now has, I think, 20-something-year-old twins who are still only living in each other's pockets. And Jesse speaks up and asks for help, and he gets a fun green fedora, which I think I, as a viewer, was more thrilled about than Jesse was. And he realises that if he identifies this as a problem, he shouldn't just brush it under the rug. It's okay, in fact, encouraged to ask for help. And this is what we see with Jesse. And it was a really great moment. And they take the twins to separate activities, Becky and Jesse, and they come back and the twins apparently had a really good time. So I feel like they learned a lot. And as I said, I'm just guessing, but if you're a parent of twins going through something similar, there could be an element of support here. There could be some good advice, and I'd love to know if that's the case for anybody. And I found it to be really quite interesting. So definitely a really fascinating episode in that regard. And the story with DJ and the blackmail as well was quite interesting. Yes, I think they could have done a little bit more with that. It could have been the main narrative of another episode, but it was okay. What we got was still really enjoyable. So needless to say, I thought Support Your Local Parents was a really good episode of Full House. I don't think I have any personal highlights. The whole thing was just really enjoyable. I guess Jessie realising that it was okay to ask for help, to acknowledge that this was a problem, and then to take actions to help Nicky and Alex. I think that was really nice to see. And DJ being the one to admit to Danny that she got her ticket, I thought was a good decision as well. And I also really like watching Stephanie and Michelle interacting. What's quite interesting is that Stephanie and Michelle seem to have a closer relationship than DJ and Stephanie did at this point. And I think, and I'm just kind of guessing here, but I feel like they were maybe trying to show the age gap between DJ and Stephanie much earlier on. And basically from the beginning. They did spend time together though, of course. Whereas Stephanie and Michelle, they do spend a lot of time together. They seem much closer despite the age gap between Michelle and Stephanie being the same as between Stephanie and DJ. So I just thought that's quite interesting. The episode as a whole, really enjoyed it. Support Your Local Parents is definitely not a bad episode of Full House.